Yo, 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 what is good, guys? My bad, had to drink a little bit of water, but welcome to another trading video, alright? And this video will specifically be about supply and demand zones, but getting into them, it's going to be about the strength of them, alright? So if you have already watched my boot camp, right, the 4-day boot camp that I have on the YouTube, you know that we have a scoring card, right? And on that scoring card, we have strength, time, freshness, curve, profit potential, and trend, right? Those are the six elements that are part of that scoring card. I'm pretty sure it's six. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I think it's six. And in this video, we'll be talking about how to identify strong supply and demand zones. That when they come back, when the market retests them, they can give a good reaction, but you also got to keep in mind trend, context, and a lot of other things. This video will be just about strength, all right? I'm gonna be displaying to you guys strong zones because when you look at a chart, you see multiple zones, right? There's a rally base drop here, and then there's a rally base rally here, and then there's a rally base rally here, right? So you can see multiple zones. Look, rally base drop, right? You can see multiple zones here when you look at a chart. But or we use our scoring card to filter out and figure out which one of these are going to be the best zones to trade. That's why we follow that scoring card. And so the one that I'm going to highlight on this video is strength. All right? How strong is your zone? And what are the key elements? One, it's a zone that breaks out, a zone that has a 2 to 1 or more move out. You can even do 3 to 1. If you remember, guys, when we're trading, we're like scientists, right? So whenever you're gathering your data and logging everything and like logging your data, your journal, you can say, oh, am I gonna just do a zone that has a 2 to 1 move out or a 3 to 1 move out? So this is completely up to you. I'm just doing 3 to 1s for the sake of the video, but if you want to do 2 to 1s or even just 1 to 1s, you pick that number. But on the scoring card, the number that is there, it's 2 to 1. All right, and here I'm just doing 3 to 1. All right, so let's get started here. All right. Strength. What is a zone that breaks out? A zone that breaks out is pretty much a zone that's going to break a opposing high, low, demand zone, demand zone, supply zone or supply zone. So what does that mean? All right, let's get started here. A good supply zone for it to be strong, for it to have strength, it needs to either break a low. So as you guys can see, look at this drop, base, drop that broke a low, right? Or it needs to have a strong move out. Look, this zone didn't break through any lows or highs, right? But it had a strong move out right here. Rally base drop. Market never got to it, but this is a zone rally base drop right here, and it is a strong zone. But this zone is just a reaction off of this zone right here. And this is strong because look, drop base drop broke a low, and I ended up taking shorts on this day. This was the trade I took. I took shorts here. My TP1 was at this drop base rally, and then boom, TP1 was hit. We bounced back on up. I'll be honest, I moved my stops to break even just because this was a overnight trade. So I said, I don't want to stay in this. No, actually, my TP1 was at 2 to 1. It was down here, and my stops weren't that wide. Boom. Because I got in when it was overnight, so it was actually right here when I got in. And then I got stopped out right here, and then look at that. That was unfortunate. But so that's when we look for when looking for or supply and demand zones that are going to give us a strong reaction. So did your zone break through a low? So as you guys can see, we have a drop, base, drop, supply zone right here. And this supply zone, it broke through not only one low, but it also broke through another low, correct? That is just the element number one. Is your zone breaking through lows or highs or opposing zones? What do you mean by opposing zones? Well, we have a low here, correct? But we also have a drop base rally. And this zone broke through this zone. Get it? So look, when we retested it, look at this nice reaction back to where? To this drop base rally demand zones. That's why we target where we target, you know. This would have been a nice TP1 and unfortunately break even, you know. So this zone is strong because it had a nice breakdown. But now let's check if it's the top zone, top quality zone. Let's see if it also offers, right, the move out. So look, boom, boom. Where did this move out stop? I see it right here. Boom. So that is a 2 to 1 plus move out, which that's why you guys can see this zone worked one time, two times, three times, you know, and every time it worked back onto demand. Why? Look, here we come, and then, okay, we ended up breaking through all of these demand zones right here, but those are not really in a good location. This one is. That's why this right here as a TP1 is best. So, look, you get in the short position. That is a 3 to 1 to just to your TP1. You understand? Because this was a top quality zone. Alright? As you guys can see, look, this zone right here, it didn't break through anything. You know, it just drop, base, drop. It just made a move down. Okay? And this move down is not even, let's see, you know, let's say you had you done boom, boom, to here 1.43, so it doesn't has any breakdowns or breakouts, nor does it have any move outs. That's why this zone didn't work, but this one did. You get it? You want to look for these strong supply. I'm looking right now at supply zones, but I'll show you guys demand zones in a second. All right, look now, why did these zones here not work? It's most likely because of their higher time frame, context, and location. But that's something you guys are gonna have to figure out. I'm not just gonna sit here and tell you guys. I'm just looking at this down momentum and looking for entries. But if we failed here, there has to be a reason why. You know? For example, let me go on a higher time frame. There's a nice example right here. Whoop, whoop, boom. Look at this demand zone right here. Drop, base, rally, right? Market retest your zone, and then where do we go back to? Rally, base, drop, supply zone. Yeah, it's a low risk to reward ratio, but it's what you have. You know, that's the range you're trading in. And what did this zone do? I pretty much see this drop base rally as the zone that broke this high and it has the move out. You know, you can even see a rally base rally here. So if you wanted to like, I'm gonna take both of these zones, or I'm gonna take this and this, you know, this ended up giving a higher profit potential. I don't know, this is like a 2 to 1 here or so. Yeah, look, 2.37, 2.85. So it's very on this rate, it would have depended on where you set your entries, but this is the key here, that you want to look for these zones, okay? And for example, this one, rally base rally, strong move out, all right? Everything was strong and it failed. Why? I'll also let you guys know there is a higher time frame reason why this zone failed. And that's something you guys gotta figure it out. So it's not just about spotting these quality zones. This is a quality zone. I get it. You know, you as a supply and demand trader, you might look at this and say, hey, this is a good zone. But this is not a good zone, you know, because there are elements that are part of this trade. We remember we're just focusing on the strength. Looking at the strength of this zone, this is a perfect zone, you know. That's why, look, when the market came back to it, it gave us a bounce. Look, when the market came back to it, look at that bounce right there. Buyers were in this area, all right? It's just that the fact that when we touched the nearest opposing supply zone, which is, look, drop base drop, immediate retest there, when we touched it, it just sent us lower. So we did go from like demand, look, drop base rally. It was a rally base rally, but as you guys can see, I'm going down the time frames and I can refine the zones, all right? So look, drop base rally, strong move out, broke through all these highs. The market comes and look, drop base drop. This is the move out. This is your supply zone, right? You get in these longs. Remember, where do we target? The nearest opposing lower time frame zone, which 1.33 to 1. You know, yes, it gave you a good move back into supply. The zone did work. Why? Why do I see it in my book that it worked? Because it moved back into supply. But did the trade keep on going, and was it, you know, successful and like with trend, with momentum? No, it wasn't. You know, so that trade wasn't correct for you to execute. But a lot of traders there. That's why this video I'm just looking at strength. If I was breaking down the whole zone to you guys, that would have been different. Alright, but let's keep on finding here strong zones. Alright, look at this one. Mm, drop base rally. Alright, and then look at this wick. Once you guys see this wick here, you guys can pretty much say, oh, we're gonna get a liquidity sweep of the lows, and then we're gonna touch this demand and run. And look at that. Boom. I have a student of mine that took this trade on this day. And as you guys can see, he caught the bottom of the day. Alright? Let's look at the trade I took on gold Friday. I want to show it to you guys. Gold Friday. This Friday. Right here. Look, what do we have here? We have a rally base rally that broke out, correct? Let me find the. This is good. Rally base rally that broke out, correct? My trade was simply this here. This depends on rally based rally. My entry was on this trade right here. Boom. We tapped into it. I got in. And as you guys can see, I had a gorgeous day. You know, my entry was actually down here. It wasn't. I was near the low of the day because I refined my entries. But yeah, I had a solid entry here, guys. Solid entry near the low of the day. Uh, let's keep on finding these strong zones. So look, drop base drop that broke a low. Had you done wick to wick, you would have been filled right there and caught that whole move down, you know. But now had you done body to wick, you would have been filled there and caught that move down. Back to where? Look at this qualified demand. We didn't, okay, we broke through it. That's why we give a stop buffer, but the general area held. And as you guys can see, it's a rally-based rally that broke a high. You know, did this break through anything? I mean, yes, we did get a break of here, you know, which is a rally-based drop supply zone. So yeah, we did, but look at that move out. It was a move out straight into supply, you know. So these are the key element. This is the key element you must look for when looking for strong zones. You want your zone to either break an opposing zone, all right, or your zone has to break a high or a low. Okay, let me find a zone that broke a opposing zone. That was a nice trade example. That is a nice trade example. There's something here. So look, we have this rally based rally right here. You guys see this? Rally based rally. We got the break of it right there. What is the zone here? I get that we have a bunch of clutched up candles, but what is the zone that broke it, you know? I can see some type of move up and then down and then back up and then down, you know? This is how I see it. So there's something right here. Boom, or even like this, but I don't think it would have been filled had you done it like that. Look at that evidence wick right there. Oh no, 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 never mind. Never mind. We got the break, and then as soon as we got the break, look, boom, Im immediately back into this rally base drop area. You can see it on the 3 minute here, you know, maybe on the 10 minute. No, there's this here drop base drop that broke this low. Immediate evidence wick here, okay? Drop base drop broke this low evidence wick. Boom, broke this zone, retested and went lower. Look, we even retested it one more time and then we dropped. So, which essentially this is all a test of this here. Because look, let me show you guys the price. What is the price structure? Sometimes I gotta look at the structure. This is a structure. Boom. Boom. So I know that there's a zone somewhere in this whole range here. Oop, which that's where we retested once and twice. Look at this zone right here. Drop, base, drop. Look at this gorgeous move out all the way down to here. Alright? And broke through all of these lows. Look how the market moved into it. Look at that right there. Boom. Gorgeous. You see? These are the types of zones you want to be looking to trade. That drop base drop was gorgeous. Alright? And where did we reject here from? Boom. Drop base drop that broke this low. You see, it gets once you only look for zones that do certain things, which they're breaking lows or breaking opposing zones, trading supply and demand, it doesn't get complicated and it becomes simple because all you're doing is just looking for zones that do specific things and you must wait for these zones, you know, and they're either gonna work and fail and boom, if they fail, you look for the next trade. If they work, gorgeous. You know, for example, look at this one right here. Drop base rally that broke a high, correct? Now, did it move and create new highs? No, but it gave you a nice bounce. Let's see if it touched that supply zone. Had you done wick to wick? No. But look how funny trading is. I'm just gonna show you guys. Boom. Let's say had you gotten filled here, where is your nearest opposing zone? It's that rally base drop. And why is it that rally base drop? Because that rally base drop broke through this low. So that rally base drop is strong. You know, that has to be your TP1. That's why most trades are good to skip when trading supply and demand. Because you don't have the profit potential. Like, do you really want to waste your time sitting through here? Like this here? Like 1.121. I get it. Yeah, you're gonna have a whole lot of wins, but your risk to reward is gonna be low. I mean, That's just not how I like to trade. You know, I have around a 50% win rate, 50%, 45 minimum, you know, and my green days to my red days ratio is 80% of my greens are have been 80% of my days have been green since August of last year, and 20% have been red. I've been tracking since then, you know? And it's just because I look for these zones and I'm patient. It's all about that, you know? Here, let me go to a higher time frame so you guys can see this. Where did we bounce here from? It's all about cycling through these time frames. Look at this, look at this. 4 hour. Drop base rally. You see how strong this base rally is? It broke through all of this supply right here, which, yeah, I get it. There, you can see something here, but this is a test of this. So either way, it broke through all of this here. Look through how much supply it broke. You know, that's so much. And then you take this trade right here, boom, gorgeous trade. You know, right here, drop base rally, 1 hour. 1 hour you wouldn't have been filled by a bit, you know, which is unfortunate because I was looking to take longs here, but no, no, no. I thought this was a different day. Never mind. Never mind. But look, now you can see it on the 1 hour. Look at this drop base drop, right? Gorgeous move out, and we broke through all of these demand zones, right? So we didn't break through a higher low, no, but we broke through all of these demand zones, and let's look at the move out. Let's just see. I think it's more than the 2 to 1, yeah. 2.29. All right, so it meets the criteria. Hmm. Let's see. Look, it gave us a bounce back to where this rally base rally demand zone here. So you see how you can literally ping pong between these zones, but you also gotta have the profit potential, this and that. Look, you get in right here, but this right here is your nearest demand zone. You gotta watch out, you don't have the profit potential. But if you wanted to target here, alright, let's just see. Boom, look. Had you gotten in, everything was smacked. And then once we hit here, that's why I say always give a stop buffer. Don't, when you're getting into a trade, don't just put your stop at the end of the zone. Always give some room, right? Because this can happen. And this is where liquidity sweep and ICT traders, this is what they do. They are just trading off of this, you know? Us, supply and demand traders, we are looking at these highs and lows, and instead of waiting for the break of them to trade in the opposite direction, right? We expect just the bounce from them without the break. You know, ICT traders, they're waiting for that break, and then they go in the lower time frames and they look for reversal patterns. That's it. You know, but it's all reading trading the same way. But I like supply and demand better because I've noticed that a lot of times we don't get the sweep, we just get the test of the zone. Look at this. Rally base drop. Look at that strong move. I'll broke through that low. When market retested it, look at that sell off. And okay, I get it. If you're an ICT trader, you see market coming back and you can be like, okay, we're gonna get a sweep and go lower. Didn't. We're gonna get a sweep and go lower. Didn't. We're gonna get a sweep and go lower. Look, it took out and went lower. We're gonna get a sweep and go. For me, this is what I do. All right. I see this area, which is just a wick, so this area is probably a test of something here. You know, maybe I got stopped out there, and then I see this area, which this wick at the end of the day is just a test of this, which this is just a test of this drop base drop right here. So this is the real zone. Look, drop base drop, and look at that move out, and then retest, and then retest, and then retest. Boom. Look how many times this drop base dropped worked, you know? And this is why I like supply and demand zones because most of the times we break through a high or a low, we're just testing a different zone, you know? And pay attention to this. Pay attention to this. I'll show you guys just one thing that might blow through your mind. All right? You see this drop, base, drop. No, I'm not gonna show it to you guys. Never mind. Never mind. Never mind. It's too much. Too much. Too much. But look, drop, base, drop that broke a low. Did we look at the retest right here? Oh, we didn't get, we missed. That's unfortunate. And then market came back, stopped you out. Why did it stop you out? Because look what we tested. Rally base drop. And this rally base drop, it is strong because it broke through this opposing zone right here. Whatever this is. Look, we cracked through that. We also cracked through this right here. You know? So this was a strong rally base drop, and but this was also a strong drop base drop as well. Don't get me wrong, but look at that, boom, ciao. These are the moves you want to get. These are the moves you want to get into. You know, just looking at a bearish market right now, but let's look at a bullish market. Here I don't see any good examples. I mean, we do have this drop base rally that market gave a good reaction, but it gave a good reaction to where? Back onto a opposing supply zone. So as you guys can see right here, there's a drop base drop, good reaction, back to opposing supply, you know. Once you do this for long enough, you're just gonna see this like boom from the top of your head and it's gonna be simple, which that's what I love about trading supply and demand. You know, it's the same scenario, believe it or not, I mean, that's how I believe trading is, right? It's the same scenario over and over again because you're trading setups. Uh, but I just feel like the supply and demand setups are so easy to master because you literally see like drop base rally strong move out breaking through everything. Just never tested it. And then look, rally base rally broke through a high. Interesting. All right, let's take it. Look, retest went higher. You know, had you taken this demand zone right here, right here, right here, made money. You know? And then, but then look, where were we in between? We were in between this very good and strong demand zone and very good and strong supply zone. So you see how it is from zone to zone to zone to until we cracked. And then once we got the crack, okay, where's our nearest opposing good zone? Let's take a look. Boom, we have something right here. That's why we rejected, you know? And then where did we go to? Well, where's your nearest opposing good quality demand zone? Back to here. Boom, boom. It's just ping ponging. And then once we broke through there, where's your nearest opposing quality demand zone? There's something right here. Whatever this is a test of this, but whatever this is, it's also a test of this right here. Look. Boom, boom. Rally base drop. Tested right there. This tested this, which this tested this. So this is the authentic. And look, rally base drop that broke through opposing demand zone. Look, rejected there, but then momentum did its thing and kept on going higher. So that's what you want to look for when looking for these supply and demand zones. Just zones that break opposing zones or zones that break highs or lows. You get it? For example, look at this one. Rally base rally that broke a rally base drop. So this was a good zone. Market retested and went higher. You see? Look, drop base rally that broke this high, broke through these opposing zones. Market retested and went higher. Just showing you guys these examples. Look, where is the origin of this whole move up? The origin, alright, the origin. Somewhere around these lows here. I'd say this one, which when you look at how market retested this. Boom. And that is because go to the hourly here real quick. You may need to go to a higher time frame like the 4 hour. Look, the less real breakout of a high, this is the most significant high. This is just a rally-based rally, right? So the less breakout of a significant high is right there, and look at that come around. Boom. Gorgeous trade right there. And where did we reject from? Drop, base drop that broke through a low, and the market rejected from. You see? It's just too simple. It's too simple. But I hope this video helped, guys. I'm getting to an end here because low key getting tired, and it's I've been just showing you guys the same thing over and over again. So if you if you didn't understand, strength. This is strength. A zone needs to have a 2 to 1 or more move out, or it needs to break a high, low, or opposing zone, whether that is demand or supply. All right? Keep that in your mind, and I hope this video helps, and have a great night, and ciao.